It's always a pleasure to have on our program the Honorable Maxime Bernier, leader of the People's Party of Canada. Welcome, Maxime.
Thank you, Robert. I'm very pleased to be with you today.
Now, before we begin, Maxime, if you don't mind, I'd like to set the stage of our discussion today. Last week, Canadians played host to Christine Anderson, a member of the European Parliament for Germany and a member of the Alternative for Germany party. Now, Ms. Anderson achieved celebrity status in Canada for her rebuke of Justin Trudeau when he visited the European Parliament in March of 22, just a few weeks after he brutally and violently put down the peaceful Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. This is what she had to say in Parliament that caught everyone's attention.
It would have been more appropriate for Mr. Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, to address this House according to Article 144, an article which was specifically designed to debate violations of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, which is clearly the case with Mr. Trudeau. Then again, a prime minister who openly admires the Chinese basic dictatorship, who tramples on fundamental rights by persecuting and criminalizing his own citizens as terrorists just because they dared to stand up to his perverted concept of democracy, should not be allowed to speak in this House at all. Mr. Trudeau, you are a disgrace for any democracy. Please spare us your presence. Thank you.
Now, in Canada, she was met with open arms by many, including 3 Conservative members of Parliament and yourself, who dubbed her the Queen of Freedom.
Yes.
However, Pierre, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada and official opposition, did not take kindly to his party MPs being seen in the company of Ms. Anderson, and was quoted by journalist Brian Lilly to say, quote, "Christine Anderson's views are vile and have no place in our politics." The MPs were not aware of this visiting member of the European Parliament's opinions, and they regret meeting with her. Frankly, it would have been better if Anderson never visited Canada in the first place. She and her racist, hateful views are not welcome here, unquote. Now, as of today, I could not find that he has disavowed himself from this report by Brian Lilly. And also, as of today, I can't find the opinions of Mr. Poilievre, what he finds so vile and racist. Nobody is filling in that blank unless he's simply repeating the usual pejorative slapped on anyone who speaks about individual freedom. Oh, you're racist. You're vile. Maxime, could you please tell us about your impressions of Ms. Anderson and what you think Mr. Poilievre is talking about?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Robert. I must say that I know Christine Anderson. We've met by Zoom during the COVID hysteria a year ago, more than a year ago. And she came in Canada, like you said, for a couple of days, and I was with her last Thursday in Montreal. I had the privilege to meet her in person, very pleased. And as you just said, she's a member of the European Parliament from Germany, and she's part of a political party over there in Germany that is asking for the same thing that we at the PPC are asking for. We are asking for sustainable immigration. We are saying no to mass immigration. And that is the position of our party, because as you know, they received a lot of migrants in Germany. And she argued that, you know, for the good of our country, they must be able to control their immigration policies, and they're not right now in Germany. So that's one point. And the other point, she's a freedom fighter, like you said. And I said she's the queen of freedom because she like you just read, she condemned Justin Trudeau when he delivered a speech in the European Parliament, because, as you know, Trudeau during COVID-19 was violating our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So she's a freedom fighter, and she fight for sustainable immigration. So because of that, some mainstream media are saying that she's a racist, like they did to me personally, during COVID-19 and at my first election as the leader of the People's Party in 2019, where, it was new for a political party to argue for sustainable immigration. So what Pierre Poilievre did last Friday, and that was him, that was the office of the leader of the opposition, approved by Pierre Poilievre, a statement to Brian Lilly, like you said, and also other mainstream journalists that was in the Global Mail, that was in the National Post, everywhere in the mainstream Anglophone media in Canada. That statement that you just read, that he said she was a racist. And so what we discovered, I believe, last Friday is the true Pierre Poilievre. Poilievre was exposed as the fraud he is, because Poilievre, during the Freedom Convoy, did a photo op. And I said it at that time, it was only a photo op with the truckers, with some truckers in his riding near Ottawa. He was not around the parliament here during the Freedom Convoy. And, it was a little bit more popular to be for the Freedom Convoy at that time, knowing that, they had a inside fight against O'Toole. So he decided to do a photo op with a trucker. That being said, we know that, he just did that for being able to be the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, because the memberships of the Conservative Party of Canada wanted real freedom fighters. So he did that at that time. But last Friday, we were able to saw the real Pierre Poilievre, and is playing the same cards as Justin Trudeau, and he wanted to please the mainstream media. So he threw under the bus the three MPs who had a meeting with Christine Anderson. And he said that Christine was a racist. Actually, the meeting was also with the Conservative MP, Mrs. Lewis, and she's a Black lady. So Christine, I can tell you that she's not racist. She's a real freedom fighter. She's fighting for our country, for the sovereignty of our country, like what I'm doing here in Canada. That's why I was pleased to tell her, and I gave her a little pin of a PPC pin, and I said, you're an honorary member of the People's Party of Canada. We are doing the same fights. So Poilievre, like I said, after the leadership, is going slowly but surely to the left. And, because he wants to please the mainstream media, and also to have more support in the GTA, in the big Toronto. There's more seats over there than in all Alberta together. So, and also more seats in Vancouver. So now for Pierre Poilievre, his goal is to be prime minister of this country. So he doesn't have any conviction. And we discover, a lot of people discovered the real Pierre Poilievre last Friday, but I knew it because I said, the Conservative Party of Canada is morally and intellectually corrupt. I said that in 2018, and that's the reality also today. So I'm not surprised about that. And what I'm surprised about it's the lack of courage from Leslie Lewis, because the day after being thrown under the bus, she was with Pierre Poilievre celebrating the historical month, Black historical month, the month of March. So her goal, as you now know, is to be a minister in the Pierre Poilievre cabinet, and she's doing everything to please him. And so she doesn't have any conviction also. That's the reality of Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party of Canada.
When I first was introduced to Christine Anderson online, I mean, I've never met her or spoken to her, I investigated some of what she's about, the Alternative for Germany Party and things of that nature. And the only thing that I could find about immigration was that she does mention Muslims. Now, as we all know, and we have Muslim friends, as we all know, Islam is not a race. right? So she never mentions race anywhere that I can find. And if anybody can find it, please let me know. So this bromide, this pejorative, racist comment coming from Poilievre and others is, again, just that typical knee-jerk slap in the face to anybody who might disagree with immigration targets or open immigration. Now, to that point, I spoke with our good friend Salim Mansour about this, saying, what is your opinion about Ms. Anderson's talking about limiting immigration in Germany? Because over the decades, they have what they had a workers program for basically what they call the Turkish Muslims coming to Germany and supposedly temporarily as temporary workers, but they stayed. Mm-hmm. And now the face of Germany is changing, and they're at some point getting over 1 million immigrants every year. And it is putting such a burden on their culture, their society, and their social welfare programs that she is quite rightly, as we are, concerned. Now, let's put this in context, Maxime. I found some statistics which I think that people should know. Historical Canadian immigration limits, caps. Under Pierre Elliott Trudeau in 1984, 88,000 was the max. Under Brian Mulroney in 1987, 76,000 was the cap. Under Jean Chrétien, liberal Jean Chrétien, 70,000 was the cap in 1996. Mind you, he increased it later to 250,000. Under Trudeau, you got 341,000 in 2020, over 400,000 now. But what is the PPC's immigration target? 100,000 to 150,000. Basically twice that of Jean Chrétien. And you're the one who has this term slapped at you. Oh, you're a racist for limiting immigration. Pot calling the kettle black, don't you think, and hypocritical?
Absolutely. They don't want to have that discussion about immigration level. When I'm saying they, the Conservative Party, all these establishment political parties, because now they're pandering, and because of the impact of immigration in some ridings in our country, the immigration population is a huge part. And so they want to be sure to gain more ridings and having more support and more seats. So the Conservative, the NDP, the Liberals are pandering to ethnic community. And for me, I said in the beginning, I don't care if you're from China, Chinese origin, or Pakistanis, or for me, you're a Canadian. You're in Canada, you're a Canadian, a proud Canadian, and I will do everything for you as a Canadian. But I won't pander for you because you're coming from China or Russia, and you want to celebrate your new Chinese year, and you want to have some money from the federal government. No, if you want to do that, we are in a free country, you can do it, but the government must not promote that. We must promote our identity, our history, our culture, and that's our country. So when you decided as an immigrant to come to Canada, it was a very tough decision for you personally, and you decided to leave behind some of your friends, your culture, and your family to start a new life, a new beginning in Canada. So you're welcome. And I want you to be part of this country, to be part of our culture. So that's a huge difference between us. And that's why we need to have fewer immigrants, a maximum of 150,000. But like in our immigration policy, if people want to read it, they can go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca/electoral platform and immigration, 2 pages. It will take you 5 minutes. It's all there. And we want the majority of them, maybe 75% of them, to be skilled immigrants. That would be people that will come here, they will have a job. And if they have a job, as you know, it's easier to be part of a society, to integrate a society. And they will have a job because a Canadian entrepreneur is not able to find a Canadian for that job. But today we have 460,000 immigrants, and 75% of them are not skilled immigrants. only 25% of them. The big majority, 75% of them, are refugees. And the majority of these refugees are fake refugees that are crossing our border in Quebec at the Roxham Road. More than 35,000 of them did that last year. And that would be the same thing next year. And these refugees are jumping the queue, and we are not helping the real refugees where their life is in danger in another country. So, and in that 75%, there's also the reunification of family. You know, the Trudeau and the Conservative, they want the huge family to be able to come when you have skilled immigrants. So for us, the family, it's only the wife or the husband and kids. But for the Liberals and the Conservative, that's the brothers, sisters, uncle, granddad. When they're coming here, they don't have a job. They're coming here because they're part of the family of a skilled immigrant. We must stop that. We must do like we did before in the past under Trudeau father, under Brian Mulroney. The reunification of family was only for the immediate family, husband, wife, and kids, and that's it. But that's our immigration reform, and I believe that we must say no also to the cult of multiculturalism. And you know, we have Canadian values, and we must promote that.
I think we've established that the PPC's platform plank on immigration is not about race, it's not about religion, it's about economics, and it is a reasonable limit that we've seen that other prime ministers, Liberal and Conservative, have used in the past. And now we've come into an area where if anybody talks about limiting immigration, as all prime ministers have done, including Justin Trudeau today, they're labeled this nonsense, racism and all that. So it's not about race or religion or immigration. So that only leaves one thing. What else is Christine Anderson and the People's Party of Canada for? It's for individual freedom.
Yeah.
It is for fairness and responsibility and respect.
Yeah.
So when a Mr. Poilievre or Mr. Trudeau or Singh come out and throw these labels around, one can only say that the vile views that in their mind that they were rebelling against can be freedom. So I would ask you, Maxime, what distinguishes the Conservative Party of Canada from the People's Party of Canada, philosophically or ideologically?
Yeah, first I must say that the big difference is the way that we are doing politics, because for the Conservative and the Liberals, they will speak about something when they have a majority on their side. They're doing politics based on polling and focus group. And that's what Poilievre is doing right now. That's why people, real conservatives, are very disappointed, because we are living in a socialist era now. So Poilievre is going to the left. We are doing politics based on convictions and ideas and principles. So like you just said, our 4 principles are individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness, and all our policies are in line with these principles. So that being said, you know, it's not if something is popular or not, or if something is politically correct or not. For us, it is not important. We are speaking about our vision for this country, and we know that the more we speak about something, the more it will become popular, because it is based on common sense. And so that's a huge difference, doing politics based on conviction and ideas. And actually, you know, people said, oh, Maxime, you are the real Conservative Party. I don't like to call our party like that. And I did it before in the past. And I will tell you a little anecdote about that. During the last electoral campaign, or before the last electoral campaign, I don't remember, I was in Halifax and I delivered a speech outside in a park, and we had about maybe 150 people there during lunchtime. And so I spoke, and that was great. And after my speech, an old lady, I must say, maybe 75 years old or something like that, she came to me and she said, Maxime, I enjoy and I liked everything that you said at your speech, but But I must tell you, I didn't like when you say that. And when I said that sentence, that was during my speech, I said, we are the only real conservative party in Canada. And she said, I didn't like that. And I asked her why. She said, because, you know, I voted NDP all my life, and I will vote for your party at this election. You're not a conservative party for me. You're a common sense political party. And I look at her and I said, you're right. Because when I'm speaking about conservatives, it's conservative family values that we are promoting as a political party. And on the economy, it's more freedom, and it's more freedom of choice and competition. So, and since that time, I said, you know, you're right. I won't say that again. And she was right. So yes, we are more than a conservative party. We are a freedom party, a common sense party. We have a vision for this country. We believe in people. We have faith that you have the ability, the dignity, and the right to make your own decisions and determine your own destiny. That's the People's Party. That's why we call our party the People's Party. That's why we are a populist party, because we put people first and our country first.
I am so glad that you made that distinction, Maxime, because it's not only a marketing distinction to distinguish yourself from the other party, which called themselves conservative. It's also a philosophic difference and an ideological difference. So I'm glad that you made that, because we are what we do. And if anybody looks at what conservatism is in Canada for the past 90 years since R.V. Bennett, who said, I am for reform, and reform means the end of laissez-faire, which is capitalism.
Yeah.
And since then, till today, conservatism in Canada means socialism. This is what they conserve. They conserve power, they conserve control, they conserve socialism, socialist programs. You'd think that when Harper won his majority, that he would have defunded the CBC. No, it's still there. Nothing changed with Harper and a big majority. Nothing changed with Mulroney, with the largest majority ever in Canadian history. So conservatism in Canada has a very specific meaning, and I think that I'm totally on side with you. The People's Party of Canada is not a conservative party. We're not competing with Canadian conservatism.
Yeah.
And I would put myself in the same boat. I'm a classical liberal, but personally, I'm conservative in my values. I try not to offend. I wear non-offensive clothing. I cherish family and friends, those kinds of things, as most people do.
Yeah.
But I know your time is precious here, so I'll finish with one thought, and I want your response to it, if you could, please. Now, from all polling accounts, and I rely on 338canada.com as perhaps one of the most reliable aggregates of polling in Canada, and they show both parties neck and neck at gaining, if an election were held today, 142 seats each, neck and neck. Now, even with the disgraceful, disgusting, damaging, corrupt behavior of our Liberal NDP coalition government over the past few years, arguably the worst governance this country has ever seen, and that's speaking a lot, considering we had to put up with Pierre Trudeau and others. It is impossible, given these trends, for the Conservatives ever to get a majority government again in Canada, in my estimation. So what do you have to say to those who side with your ideology, your political philosophy of fairness and respect and individual freedom and responsibility, side with your conservative family values, but say that I'm going to vote for Poilievre's Conservative Party, even though it appears, they're a lost cause for freedom, and they will never, ever form a majority government again where they can do what they promise they will do.
Yeah, you have a point there about a majority government. I agree with you. It would be very difficult for Pierre Poilievre to have a majority government. And, I'm saying to people, they voted Conservative because they wanted to get rid of Justin Trudeau. They did that in 2019, in 2021. And the result was Justin Trudeau. So I'm telling them, for once, vote for your values, vote for what you believe in, and you'll have more chances to have what you want if you vote for what you want. So the other question about that is, that splitting the vote. Knowing that Poilievre won't be able to have a majority, you must vote for us because we can be like the NDP of the right. The NDP is pushing the Liberals to the left, and now we have a socialist government in Ottawa. We can, keep Pierre Poilievre honest, and we will support him when he'll do things in line with our platform. So if you like our electoral platform, go on our website. We are the only national political party that has a platform right now. All these other establishment political parties will do polling and focus group, and they will come with their electoral platform a couple of weeks before the election. We will have always the same platform because, like I said before, we are doing politics differently and we are pushing these ideas. So if you like that, go and read our platform. And if you like that, vote for what you believe, because if your candidate is elected, we will support that minority government when that government will be real conservative or will do things in line with what you like in our platform. We won't do any compromise. So I believe it's a win-win. It's a win-win for you. It's a win-win for the country. And I believe that that's the way. And I believe that the next election, at that time, I will be part of the national TV debates. I was not part of these debates in 2021 because they were afraid of the truth and the common sense. And now they said they created a new rule, as you know, for Bernier. They said I needed to have 4% of the vote, and we had 5%. So for sure, I'll be there and I will debate, and that would give us more visibility. And I can tell you, we'll have some candidates that will be elected, and we will start that common sense freedom revolution in Parliament.
I certainly hope so. Maxime Bernier, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, Robert, and have a nice day.